friends, and welcome to the Happy Hour Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so excited that you're here again. Well, hopefully again, if you're back. If this is your first time, I'm really excited you're here. Every week, I invite a girlfriend to join me on the show, and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. Today's show is brought to you by Kamek, an Austin-based outdoor company on a mission to equip and inspire others for a life-changing adventure. Whether you are currently active outside or newly interested in getting you or your family outdoors, Kamek wants you to know that adventure is for everyone. Texas Tough and Feather Light Kamek gear is designed to outlast your wildest adventures. Haley, CEO of Kamek, was on our podcast a few weeks ago on episode number 131, and she is excited to share a 25% off code with all of the Happy Hour listeners. Use the code HAPPYHOUR25 for 25% off all orders through the end of June. If you're looking for the perfect Father's Day gift, this might be just the one for you. What better way to entertain your kids or partner this summer than by adding a hammock in your backyard? Head to kamek.com and gear up for your next adventure, or check out their gear shop on East 7th right here in Austin. Guys, today you're listening to episode number 145, and my guest is Maria Goff. You might know her husband, Bob Goff, more than you might know her, but I'm here to tell you we're going to switch that because you're going to want to know Maria. Maria released her first book, Love Lives Here, this past spring, and it is a collection of stories that include the ways that she and her husband navigated family their way without clear instructions or a roadmap. This book will inspire you and help you think about how you can create a space to grow while loving others. I especially loved this episode as a mama, but let me tell you, friends, even if you're not a mama, you're going to find so much in here that's good. Okay, guys, if you didn't join us for our June book club, July might just be the month for you. I'm excited to tell you at the end of this conversation the next book that we're reading together for the month of July. The Facebook group has been so much fun. And next week at my house, I'm actually hosting the very first Happy Hour book club with author Kristen Schell. So listen at the end and I'll tell you the next book we're reading. Here is my conversation with Maria Goff. Hey, Maria, welcome to the Happy Hour.
Hey, Jamie. Thanks for having me. This is really fun. Such an honor to be with you.
It's fun to have you on the Happy Hour, and I wish that I was in San Diego because A, you're there, and B, San Diego, it has to be one of the most beautiful places in the world.
We kind of like it. And what we didn't realize when we decided this is where we were going to start a family is what a draw it is for our adult kids to want to move back here.
Oh,
so
my
they
gosh.
grew up and went away to college, but then they all wanted to come back and start their families here. And that's a perk.
That's
right?
a huge perk. Huge.
Yeah.
Maybe Austin is that cool too that my kids will want to come back home.
Absolutely. I think you made a good choice. You and Aaron nailed it on that one.
Well, yeah. I remember one time when, because I don't know if you were like this when your kids were little, but I, as a mama, and you have to think back to when your kids, my oldest is 13 and my youngest is 9. And so the thought of them leaving, Maria, like it's like a gut punch to my stomach. And some days I want them to leave, but most days I just cannot even imagine that one day they won't be here. And I always joke with them. I'm like, you can buy a house in our neighborhood. I'll babysit your kids whenever you want. Like I always joke, you can come home.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of a panicky feeling, huh? Especially when you get a glimpse of them acting a whole lot older, you know, and you can kind of imagine that someday they are really going to be out on their own and how you really don't want that to ever happen. I remember that. And I wish I could have told myself back then when I felt a little panicky about them growing up and moving away is that every phase gets better. Where I just wouldn't have believed that, I don't think, right out of the bat. But now I'm looking back going, that's exactly what has happened. Is every phase, because they get better. They're more interesting. Like they're finally potty trained. They're you trade one thing for another. It's great.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I really think that you will too. I'm pretty confident of that because you're pouring into them.
Yes. I had a girlfriend tell me what you just said. She said, you know, Jamie, when they get older and they're ready to go, they're ready. And so you don't want your 25-year-old to like always need you to make dinner for them. You want them to grow up and like move out.
No.
And so I even feel that, Maria, with our 13-year-old. I say this all the time. We're entering such a fun stage. And my 9-year-old daughter, she was kind of she's a little pistol personality. So she was a little harder to parent in that like 5, 6, 7 age. And we're getting so much closer now, and she's getting so much more enjoyable because she's maturing. And I like you, I see like, I like where these relationships are going.
Me too. And it never was on a smooth arc. Like I think of it as a slingshot, you know, like they pull way back before they pole vault forward. And so sometimes I would get worried as they seem to be reverting. And I'm like, oh no, we're going in the wrong direction. You guys, why are you acting like a baby? You know better. Like you do better. But that was always right before they did something miraculous, like had a huge growth spurt, you know, emotionally, spiritually, developmentally, or whatever. So you kind of learn to ride those out a little more graciously than when you first experience it. But yeah, it just keeps getting better. I just love it.
Well, I love that. And I love hearing from people that are ahead of me. You know, like I feel like a lot of people who listen to my show are even younger than me. And so they might be, if they have kids, you know, there's a lot of single women listen, but if they have kids, they're in that stage, you remember it, where you just think it will never end.
Yeah.
These
like
diapers. Yes.
Yeah.
They will never end.
And it does. And you move on and it's good.
So you and your husband, Bob, live in San Diego, and you have 3 grown children who have all moved back home, which is every mom's dream world. So you're living our dream, Maria, to have your children move back home. So tell me this real quick. What do family gatherings look like for your family? Do y'all have a specific, let's get together every Sunday, or do you just kind of see each other when you do? What does that look like for the Goff family now that your kids are grown and some of them starting their own families?
Yeah. So right now we seem to get together a lot to tear down walls because 2 of them have bought homes.
Okay.
They've been married. And so we're sort of in the remodeling phase where everybody shows up to, you know, do demo. And it's a lot of fun. It's like pulling alongside of each other and celebrating whatever's going on in their lives. Just last night or the night before. So we have a brand new puppy and we all got together to get to know the puppy because it's like a new family member. And our first dog that was actually around when we were raising the kids had passed away. And so it's a big deal to be getting the new one.
Yeah.
And so everybody got to get together and just get to know the puppy and bond. And I don't take that for granted because there's no guarantees where anybody will end up in life. In fact, I pray that I would stay out of the way of God's will in each of my kids' lives instead of, you know, manipulating things to my favor, to stand with them and encourage them and to hold things with open palm. You know, I don't take that for granted that they're all in San Diego right now because I don't know how long it will last.
Yeah.
None of us know. And so with palms up, I just say, thank you, Lord, you know, but I hold this loosely and may your will always be done in their lives. So I try to stay out of stuff and just come alongside of them and respect them for what they're trying to accomplish in life. And Bob and I try to figure out how we can help them best.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's tearing down walls right now. We're doing in yards and landscaping and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
I love that you just brought up an idea that I was thinking about, like staying out of the way and let God do what he does with our people. And jobs take people all over the world. And so that's a realistic thing that you're looking at with your kids. And even for someone like me as parenting, coming up to a teenager, you know, that's something that I'm even like thinking about. I mean, just last week, a mutual friend of ours, Sarah Hermeyer, was on the show, and she told me that when she was 16, she went and spent the summer in Tanzania. And she's my age. I mean, you know, 16, you know, that's 20 years ago, 23 years ago. I just don't remember parents stepping out of the way necessarily, letting God do what he does. And it just made me think, man, may I be the kind of parent that says, God, I'm going to trust you, even if it's scary, with what my kids might do.
Yes. Okay. So one of my favorite memories with my kids was when they were old enough to play outside in the backyard, in a fenced backyard. So it was like maybe they were 4, 6, and 8. And they'd been out there for a little while, and then they came running inside because they'd come up with this great idea that they wanted to, quote unquote, run away. And they were just so filled with life and excitement and wonder, and they were going to do something together. And that just went completely against my grain, a protective mom that wanted them to be safe and how that was such a bad idea. I wanted to say, you can't run away. You'll never survive. I had a choice to make in that moment. And it was either to get behind them and just realize in that circumstance that they weren't going to actually run away. They were just playing as if they were and wanted to take this first step together to do something new in the world. And so I just got behind him and I thought, well, I'm good at organizing and I'm good at planning. So I just helped them put a list together of the things that they might need to pack, things that they would need along the way. And I influenced them. I'm so bad. I'm like, you might need Band-Aids in case you start bleeding, and food if you get hungry, and a flashlight when it gets dark. I mean, I kind of, in a subtle way, was sort of instilling in them, like there could be risks involved. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that goes away. Like the whole time we're either making decisions for ourselves, like Sarah did, to go to another country. You have a choice to make. Are you going to sit in the fear of all the reasons why you shouldn't do something, or all the reasons why your kids shouldn't do something? Or are you going to lean into the wonder of it and the possibilities and the plan that God may have for you along the way through it?
God, and it's so I think all of us parents, we want the outcome of what that does. It's the process of doing it that is so terrifying and scary, But at the end of the day, Maria, I think it's because, and this goes in all areas of our life, not just parenting, at the end of the day, we have this really false sense of control.
Sure. Right.
Right. On everything, not even jobs, where you're going to live, all these kind of things. We have this really kind of false sense of control that if I just keep everything really close, then I get to control the outcome. Which we both know that's not true, right?
That doesn't happen. And I think that's when our relationships with the ones that we love get really funky, is when we try to push that unhealthy part of our personalities of wanting to be controlling or have things go our way. So we say things or we do things that try to control the outcome. And gosh, that's not where I want to end up. I don't think you do either, Jamie. I think we really want healthy relationships with the people we love for the long term, generationally, you know? That would be really great to be able to look back at the end of our lives and have just this trail of really great memories with the people that we've gone on adventures and learned hard things with.
And I know, just from an outsider looking in, I know that you and Bob do that in your relationships and your family in lots of different ways. In fact, you released a book in March. Congratulations, by the way. It's called Love Lives Here.
Yes.
Finding what you need in a world, telling you what you want. And you dedicated this for my kids.
Yes.
And you were just talking about this, wanting just to impact generations to come.
Yes.
I know that you dedicated your book to that, and I hear you talking about that. What does that look like practically for you? What does it look like when you think of, man, I want to leave an impact. I want to impact generations that come after my family. What does that look like for you guys?
For me, it's keeping that big picture. It's keeping the end goal in mind. And I don't want to just have right now be great. I want to have what we're doing now and the life that we're living affect not only us, but our kids and their kids and their kids. When Bob and I grew up, we weren't raised in families where faith was a big deal. So just that alone, declaring that for our family when we got married, that would become one of those foundational stones, was really big. That was we didn't know how to do that. It wasn't modeled to us. So, we worked really hard. A lot of times we felt like we were on point, with machetes going through a jungle, finding a new path that had never been placed before. And my passion for that really came from knowing that there was something missing in my life when I grew up, and I wanted to be able to give that to my kids, not just so that I can check the box and say we gave it to our kids, but that it would have a generational effect. And so a lot of the decisions that we make are based on that. How does it fit into the big picture? Is this get us closer to the goal long term, not just now? I mean, day-to-day goals are good too, and ambitions. There's nothing wrong with that. But then that overall big picture thing is pretty great. So it was as if Bob and I, when we got married and decided our family was going to be different than the ones that we grew up in, it was as if we put a flag in the sand and declared that we are generation one. What came before us was what it was, but from this moment forward, we want things to be different. And we keep circling back to that flag, like, remember what we wanted different. What were those things that mattered to us then? So as we've gone on this journey, those were the things that I thought of the most when I was writing Love Lives Here. You know, what were the things that mattered the most to us in this world that is fighting for our attention? I mean, the world is so good at distracting us, and it tries to sell us things we don't need, you know, at a price we can't afford, basically.
Right.
You know, so we end up in life, you know, at the end going, what was that all about? Where was the meaning? Where's the legacy? Where's the eternal value in the things that we did? And it's never too late. You know, if you're 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old, you know, people that are further along than me can start right now. It's never too late in life's journey to say, I'm putting the flag in the sand. I'm going to declare things are going to be different from this day forward, and then just get to work at that. Just, you know, do your own work. Keep your eyes on your own paper is what I say.
Yeah, and it's so good because I feel like I get the joy of ministering to women in our local jail, and we talk about this a lot as well. It's like you get the opportunity to make a new beginning for the rest of your family. Yes. Because I meet so many women in there who come to the table with so much baggage and abuse and generational sin just thrown at them. Yes. And we say, you can make a change. Now, you also said something at the end. You said you got to get to work. It is hard. It is. It is hard. It is. Now, let's just be honest with us. When you and Bob decided that, you had to think about that a lot. This was not your first nature, was it?
No. In fact, when Bob and I first met, I was fresh out of rehab with a warrant out for my arrest. I could not have been at a worse time in my life.
That does not sound like Sweet Maria.
No. Right? And that's actually a really good nickname that he's given me. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to live up to that nickname.
But I love that you said that and you write about that because you're bringing the reality to the table of, listen, this is hard. This took work.
It does. And, you know, I was really motivated before I even met Bob. Like, I knew in my heart I wanted to be a wife and a mom during a time when that was not a popular thing to say out loud. I mean, Gloria Simon could have hit me with a lightning bolt or whatever, you know, like, no, don't say that. Say you want to be a CEO or own a business. And so what happened is that the pendulum swung all the way to the other side. And people like me who still wanted to be a wife and a mom first felt judged and criticized for that goal. But I really, really wanted to do the work that I needed to do in my own life to set myself up to be marriage material, to be a mom that was healthy, that could have kids. And actually, I was so sick that I feared that maybe I wouldn't be able to have kids. And Jamie, that's what really lit the fire under me. That's what made me decide I need to get help. And a lot of times I think we don't want to sit with some of the things that we're thinking or look into our lives and give ourselves permission to do that because we're afraid we're not going to like what we see. But we got to go through that. We have to be able to accept who we really are, warts and all, problems and issues and generational stuff that was passed on to us, and decide, like, what can I work with here? What can I fix? What can I keep? What can I chuck? You're like going through your house and cleaning out closets. We have that agency. We have that authority in our own life. In fact, God needs us to. You know, he has lots of plans for us and hopes and dreams, but I think he also needs us to get to work. Yeah. It's like 100% of both, 100% faith and 100% of hard work. Yeah. So I think that's what it takes at first. Then you just embrace what happens next.
So you brought up something that I think is going to be a really great thing for women to hear from you when you talk about, you said you were fresh out of rehab and you struggled with
everything,
insecurity, everything, growing up. But that came from you as a child. I mean, this was kind of thrown in on you from your family and from your growing up. Yeah. What did that struggle look like for you of fighting that insecurity? And then 25, 30 years back, where do you stand on that now?
Yeah. Oh, man, I am just so grateful for the help that I eventually got. But, you know, anxiety and stress and unhealthy home life I know my parents did the best that they could, and they had their own issues, which and now as an adult realizing that that's where that generational stuff comes from, that they probably experienced in their childhood a lot of the same pain that I did. But I just became motivated to get rid of it. We need to stop. Like, the buck stops here. Like, we're not passing this on to our kids and their kids and their kids. So yeah, I had to get real with a lot of the stress. There was so much, I had a lot of anxiety growing up because I struggled in school and nobody knew what it was that I had. It was just, I was told to just try harder, And then on top of that, I'm wearing corrective shoes for flat arches and, I can't read, I can't write, I'm failing in school, I'm having to get put back, before. I mean, I think in preschool or kindergarten or first grade, maybe that's okay to do. But I was in fifth grade. That's like the stigma of that was pretty hard. And because I'm kind of a quiet, introverted person, my mode of operation was to just shove it in, just bury it down. Don't deal with your feelings. I didn't have people or an environment where I felt like I could share anything out loud. So I just tried to be a good girl to the best that I could. And, that turns into trying to be perfect. It becomes unnatural. And so then my own body images and dealing with stress. And when I got to college, I just turned to over-the-counter drugs to deal with, a lot of my stomach issues that I had developed, and then became addicted to them. So, that's not good. So now I'm an unhealthy person, not knowing how to get help and, basically just hitting rock bottom, but stuck between this place of not liking who I was or how I was living my life and having this dream that it could be better. Really having that hope. And I really give God the credit for that, because I know that when I accepted him and started a relationship with Jesus, when I was a little kid at a Christian camp, that seed that was placed in me back then never went away. It just constantly became my guide. So, when I wrestled with my reality of not being a healthy person in an unhealthy home life, then, there was this light that kept me going, and it was God just staying with me through it all. And so I got the help that I needed, and that renewed my faith too. Because I think when you really heal from the inside out and get rid of some of the junk in your life, you're reminded of how loving and powerful God is, and what he wants to do in and through us is so much bigger than the issues that we have at hand. So it was an interesting journey. For sure.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about the hope that was put in there from the beginning, and that you knew, I don't want this, and I think there's something better.
Yep.
And I think that's what is so hard for people who maybe don't feel that, like, they don't have Jesus. Right. And so there's this sense of there's nothing else out there for me. And what a hope that he gives us as his children, that he says, I have something better for you. Yeah. Yours was, better in lots of different areas, but also spiritually as well.
Yeah.
And then you talk about right after that, you met your husband, or your soon-to-be husband, which is crazy because I have a similar story where I went through a bunch of junk. And then I met my husband, and I was like, this is great. Yeah. But I showed up to the relationship with a lot of baggage, which I'm sure that you did as well.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And that makes for a hard thing. We have good men, right?
Yeah.
Who've stuck through the hard stuff with us.
And still stick with me.
Yes.
I think that's probably one of Bob's best defining characteristics is when he looks at me, he sees who I'm becoming. And not so much who, I was or whatever trouble I happen to be having in any particular day. Like when he looks at me, he sees what I'm becoming. And sometimes I want to laugh it off and think he's just being too happy or too positive. And in reality, that's such a gift that we can give each other to say, this isn't who you are. I know you're better. I know you can do better. I know that God wants you to do better. And I'm just going to be there with you through it.
Guys, today's show is brought to you by Sock Club. Father's Day is this Sunday, people, this Sunday. And we all know that dad and the men in our lives are sometimes the hardest people to shop for. Thankfully, Sock Club is here to help. Sock Club is a Sock of the Month subscription service that sends a pair of quality, American-made socks straight to your door every single month. This is a little gift with a huge impact because each delivery brings a brand new, never-before-seen sock design specifically created for that particular month. And you can write a customized gift message so that your loved one remembers you every time they remember the socks. I gave this gift to my mom for Mother's Day. I gave this gift to Aaron last year for his birthday. I bought socks for my kids for Christmas. This is a gift that keeps on giving to everybody that you could possibly think of. They also offer printable membership certificates, which are available anytime. So you can go right now, buy your gift, print off the certificate, sign it, pop it in the mail. Guys, you could even do this on Sunday morning for your daddy. It makes you look like just the best gift giver ever. As a special offer to our listeners at the Happy Hour, you can get 15% off when you go to sockclub.com and use the promo code HAPPY. That's sockclub.com, promo code HAPPY at checkout. Give a delightful gift experience. Give comfy feet every single month. Give Sock Club this Father's Day. Guys, we also want to thank Casper Mattress for sponsoring today's show. The Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Supportive memory foams create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they're going to pick it up and refund you everything. Casper understands the importance of truly sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially considering that you're going to spend a third of your life on it, which that is a crazy fact right there. Free shipping and returns to US and Canada. With over 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars, it's quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Jamie. Use the offer code Jamie. Terms and conditions apply. I was talking to one of my friends, Taylor, who's a listener and a great friend of mine, and she's like, "Oh, you're interviewing Maria tomorrow." Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, would you want me to ask her anything?" And she said, "Yes." And she said she wanted to know about how you so graciously support your husband. And a lot of people would know, oh, Bob Goff. And you support him and you have his back. And he talks about his wife as someone who is always there for him, always supports him. Yeah. And her question for you was, has that ever been scary or hard?
Yes, because we're different. And so in our differences, I can end up feeling really insecure, but, he's a great guy and he's not a hard guy to love. Let's say that. Like his life has been really remarkable. And I consider it an honor to be at his side through a lot of it. And I think that early on in our marriage, I thought when we got married and people were talking about how two become one, I really thought in my naivety that we would just become me. I thought that would be a great direction to go in.
Because me,
so let's just be me. But that's not what God intends when he makes each and every one of us different, which blows my mind how there's no two of us alike. And so I started thinking about him being the balloon and I'm the string and how, we do different things, but we're equally important. And I don't need to compare myself, although the balloon might be more visible and noteworthy and make headlines and all of that. And the world wants to affirm people that are out there doing great things. And so they should be. But at the same time, somebody like me who actually thrives behind the scene, like that's my gear. Like I love the supporting role. I love being backstage or behind the scenes. And the string is like that anchor. It symbolizes the person that, is keeping the balloon intact. And I consider that, one of my greatest joys in life to be able to be that way for Bob. And it is scary when he wants to do things that I think are too risky, but it's like the kids wanting to run away in the backyard. Like I have a choice in that moment to shoot his ideas down and to tell him he's crazy and that don't go to places where you have to wear bulletproof vests. Like I can come up with really good reasons for him to not do what he does, but then the same thing would apply where he could tell me the same thing. And instead, we're not trying to be like each other. We're trying to build each other up and know that we're each trying to point each other towards Jesus. Like our own personal version of, in that relationship, how Jesus wants us to become, how he wants us to grow, the plans he has for us. So I try to focus on that instead of trying to compare myself to Bob or just because he likes to do risky things and I don't, that somehow like his ideas are crazy when actually he's done some really beautiful things in life and has really helped people in their life. And things work out better when he's involved. So,
yeah, I love the support that I hear from you and I see from you. And I feel like a lot of times that can be a hard role for women to kind of embrace and love. And I know that I've struggled with that. I mean, I remember when my kids were little, they were babies and they were at home and I was at home with them and I chose that and I loved it. And it's a joy that we get that choice, right? Because some people don't have the choice to not have two family incomes. So it was an honor that I got to do that.
Yes.
But Aaron was on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And he got to do amazing things and go see amazing cities and do fun stuff. And I would be lying if I said there wasn't sometimes some just like jealousy and all those kind of things. And it was a fight. And I want to read something from your book that I think is really good for us women who maybe we're in a stage of life where we are doing a lot of supporting, whether that be with our kids or our husbands or any other way.
Yeah.
You wrote this after you were talking about an instance where Bob was overseas. And you said, when Bob sets out on one of his adventures, I get another opportunity to set out on one of my own, right where I am. Whether or not I go with him or stay home, I'm a part of it too. My faith gets stretched and challenged. The way I care for my husband on the opposite side of the world is much like the way I care for him when he's on the other side of the living room. I'm present, I'm supportive, and I'm confident that God's holding onto our family during difficult times, just as we're trying to reach out to others during theirs. And I read that and I thought, man, what an encouragement for women who are feeling as though I'm in this supportive role right now. And it's sometimes a little hard, but you're saying I get to be a part of it as well.
Yeah. And I think that starts with embracing really who you are. And if you don't know who you are or the things that are important to you, then take the time to do that today. Like turn this off, go sit. Set your timer for 15 minutes and just start writing out the things that are important to you. And then start living into that. You know, I spent 2.5 years writing Love Lives Here, and it just released. So, you know, I'm in this limbo time right now where I kind of don't know what to do. I don't know how to support myself right now. Like I know all the other roles, supporting my kids, but they're grown, supporting Bob, but he's like doing great. So what do I do with myself right now? And my daughter showed me this thing, how you can vision cast by listing all of the opportunities that you have right where you are right now and line them up with your personal priorities. And then figure out what your next action step will be. And that has been huge because I'm in a period of time right now where I feel a little lost. Like I'm not as confident, you know, like supporting Bob around the world while I stay home. Like that's definitely happened. And that's definitely our mode of operation. But yet I still find that I'll get hit with that sense of, I don't know what to do. What do I do now? So that helped me a lot to start writing a list. I just got that out the other day and determined, like, for one, you know, like I have an opportunity right now to speak more. Like here, you and I are doing this podcast.
Yeah.
This is not a normal day for me, Jamie. I don't normally do it. But I want to be able to do more of it. And it's in line with my priorities by still being available to my friends. So we scheduled this at a time that was good for you and good for me. And then, you know, my next step was, you know, like figuring out how I can do more of this without getting a knot in my stomach. I don't know how you do this all the time.
Well, we all have our things that we do well. And so, you know, you can hang with me for an hour and, you know, it's just lovely. And I tell people all the time who write books and who do lots of things. Whenever you do something that is a little bit out of your comfort zone and a little bit new and a little bit like, I really don't know exactly what I'm doing. I just want to look at everyone that does it and say, I'm so very proud of you. And so I say that to you as a sister, not as any person that knows anything more than you, but just say, I'm just so proud of you for doing that because I know that took a lot of first steps. And the first steps are sometimes really scary. And so
it's true.
Congrats on that.
Oh, thank you.
That leads me, when you're talking about that, to think about rest. And I know that from just knowing you guys and reading parts in your book is that you have really valued finding places of rest. And you talk a lot about making your home a place of rest. And one part when I was reading, which was a little bit convicting, a lot bit. I should say a lot bit. I almost said a little bit to take the easy way out. I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out there. A lot bit convicting. Was you talked about like making your home a place of rest. And we want that, Lou. Like Aaron and I want our home to be fun and we want it to be safe and we want it to be restful and we love entertaining and we love people to come out and just be real. But you know what I find myself doing sometimes, Maria? And this is like, it's one of my like, I have to fight this as a parent so much, is that when my kids come in, I want to be like, how was your day? Okay, go put your clothes up, do this, and then come back down. And here's the deal. If someone did that to me, I'd be like, I'm never coming back here. Like I just, and so I find myself going through times where I'm really bad at that and I need to fight it more. And then times when I'm fighting it and I was like, no, Jamie, don't do that to your children when you come in. I know that you like lists, but your kids don't need a list when they walk in the door. And so I was reading your book and you're talking about making, like, you just want this welcoming place for your kids. And man, it just was really convicting for me as a mama of like, I do want my kids to learn how to help, but I also want them to feel really safe and restful in our home. And so what are some ways that you and Bob, I know that this is probably something y'all were very conscious about. How did you set out and say, we want our home to be restful?
I think that came from this passion, maybe a result of, my own childhood. And again, my parents did the best that they could, but I felt like we had blue shag carpeting in our living room that needed to be raked once a week.
Oh my gosh.
It was very much in style, but it might as well have been eggshells. You know that saying where you just kind of walk around?
Walking on eggshells.
Things can look good, but you just don't know when that other shoe's going to drop or whatever. So I tapped into that. I thought, well, how would I have wanted it to be? And to pay attention to that, like to treat others the way you want to be treated. So if I walked in through the front door at the end of the day or after school or whatever, how would I want to be treated? What does the home look like, smell like, feel like? What's the vibe? What music's playing? Like all of that came from me just giving myself permission to sit down and list out the things that would be important to me. And then just start practicing them. Some things work, some things don't. And seasons too affect how that gets played out. Like, probably those weeks when you're trying to do an awful lot, it's more important for you to have the books down and the kids put their things up. Like that tone I've had, the one that you described yourself as, I know it. Yeah, we all get that way. There's we have an agenda and we're trying to accomplish things in our day. But if the overarching thought and feeling for our homes is that we want it to be this safe place of rest, people feel nurtured and loved right where they're at, then that will eventually reveal itself, even in busy seasons. Yeah. Like we can be quicker at circling back or pulling in the reins when things get crazy, and they get crazy here too. And so I just see it quicker because we've tried to cultivate and nurture that feeling of this is our safe place. This is where you come home in a world that can be pretty brutal. Right. And we all go out and do our stuff, whether we're single, married, in college, or whatever, have kids and don't have kids. In school, it's rough. It's a place out there. There's a lot of beautiful things, but we need to have a sanctuary or holy ground where we've declared that this is the place where there's no more wars and no more tears. We're just going to hang out together. And, actually, there's a lot of tears. That's important too. But it's this place where people can feel really loved, right?
Yeah. That's beautiful. And what I hear you saying over and over again that I think people are picking up as well is that you didn't just come into this the way that you wanted your family to look and your home to feel. It didn't just flippantly happen. Like you really made some conscious decisions about how you wanted it to be. And I think you said something that you understand a lot more about your parents now that you're an adult. And I do as well. I mean, I say all the time that the generation before us, most of them did the best with what they knew what to do. Yep. And I think some of our kids are going to say that things as well. They're going to be like, man, that my parents brought some of this in from their childhood and they made it better though.
Yes.
And so that I feel like as I hear you talking, it's a lot about, we made a lot of conscious decisions.
Yeah.
That this is how our home was going to be.
Yeah.
And so, I think my kids are going to remember a lot of dance parties in the kitchen. And so that makes me really happy.
Good. Yeah.
While my husband, their daddy, is making some good food.
Oh my gosh. Can he come cook over here? Do you know what a gift that is? I hope you do. I'm sure you do.
I do know what a gift it is. And we all know what a gift it is when Dad's out of town. Because last night when Aaron's gone, it's literally like we all miss him. But we all just are kind of like, what are we going to eat?
Yeah.
Like, what's dinner going to look like? Yeah. And so I just made baked potatoes. And I know the kids, they were so kind.
Oh.
But I could see it in their eyes because they're like, is this it?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but here's some ranch dressing to put on top. And here's some salsa.
Oh, my God.
We do the best.
Yeah.
But Aaron is setting them up for success and failure at the same time because a lot of times, Maria, on like a normal Tuesday night, Aaron will be cooking dinner and my kids will all be hanging out in the kitchen and my kids will say out loud, this is just a normal Tuesday night. No one's coming to dinner. And my kids will say, what's the appetizer tonight, Dad? And oftentimes I look at Aaron and I think you are ruining them because now they think this is normal.
Yeah. Oh,
like who has appetizers on a Tuesday night? Nobody, except for the Ivies.
Yes. Yeah. But I also I kind of love that at the same time that appeals to me too. Because when we were raising our kids, we did a manners night and no manners night Because,
Oh.
it's kind of like an appetizer. Who knows about appetite? Who knows about manners, and why all the forks are there and how to use them and, be all prim and proper. But we made it a game, we just made it this fun thing to do. And the boys loved it. They got all dressed up and slicked their hair back. And they're talking like 6, 5 and 6 years old. But then that was always followed by a no manners night. So that's what you and Aaron are doing. Like he does gourmet meals and then you do the real thing with the
And I do baked potatoes.
Balance is good. I think that's what we aim for, because we can't be perfect, even if we spent time thinking it through and like giving God our heart's desires. We're going to mess up, but we just need to own it when we do.
So true. So true. And my kids are kind. Like when I make a crock pot meal, they'll be like, Mom, this is the best meal you've ever made. And I'm like, oh, you're so nice. Okay. So another thing that you and Bob has done really well is to foster a community of helping people step back and rest, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
And you guys have a place, and you'll have to tell me the history of how long you've had the lodge. And I know y'all just went through some very traumatic things with all the fire and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what was the dream that you guys had for this place when you started it? And then what is that now? What does that look like for you guys to be a part of really helping people find that rest and community?
Yeah, it's really been everything. And it's something that has become bigger than us. So there's a Young Life camp in Canada called Malibu. And we would go up there as a family on a boat during a vacation time and get out and realize that there wasn't a video being made for the campers, which a lot of the other Young Life camps do just as a tradition. At the end of the week, you go home with a record of what your camp experience was like. So we started out going up in the summertime to help this camp do their videos. And then while we were up there one time, realized that the land around camp was for sale. And we got concerned for camp that, something would come in, cut their water line off or cut down all these trees. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's it's just waterways. There's no roads. So you can't get there by car or truck. You have to fly in on a seaplane or come in on a boat. So that's how these campers get in by boat. And that's how we got up there, was by boat. And so when the land went up for sale, we just felt this overwhelming desire to secure it for camp, and went through the process of getting it. It's one of those things where when you think somebody else ought to do something and then nobody else does it, and then you realize, it's us. We're supposed to do that. So we ended up buying this land. It looked unbuildable. It looked like granite rock from the water line up to the glaciers, a bazillion feet up there. And then just scampering around one day, we saw this little flat spot near the water. And we thought, well, we could build a little tiny cabin for our family to stay on if we ever come up. We don't have to come up by boat. We could just fly in and stay in this little tiny cabin. Well, somebody told us that the way things get built up there is by taking dynamite and blowing up the granite and making flat spots bigger. And it got huge. So that's what we did. Bob and the boys thought that was so awesome to be able to build Canada. The thought of building something bigger needed to have a purpose for me, because I knew we didn't need something bigger. And the only thing that we could think of was how this camp full of volunteers can't go anywhere on their days off. And so they have no place to rest. So we thought, well, let's make it bigger so they have a place to come and rest. And it was like their employee lounge, Yeah. On the side, we give them cookies, and they, be able to take naps and fill back up again, get the rest that they needed so that they could go back to camp and be Jesus's hand and feet to the campers coming in, hearing about the gospel for the first time. I was all about it. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then as our family, we ran it like the volunteers at camp ran it. So our kids would sacrifice summertime and go up there in the middle of nowhere with their mom and dad. And we would do all the cooking and the cleaning and the, landscaping in the Canadian Rockies. And it was quite an experience for our family to do it. And it became our legacy, this thing that we thought would be there forever and we could pass down from generation to generation. And then this last year, we had some guys go up from a painting crew to put stain all over the exterior. And when they were done on their first day, somebody who didn't have as much experience took the stain rags and closed them in a sealed bag and they
Oh, no.
spontaneously combusted and started a fire in the back of the building. And it just within hours had engulfed the whole place. And there's like, you can't call a fire department. You can't.
I was thinking that, yeah.
Can do. So all we could do here in San Diego after getting the news was just pray that it would stay, you know, like within its footprint and not spread to other buildings on the property or to camp. And made arrangements to get up there as fast as we could. And we're standing at the fire pit, you know, the perimeter of this giant lodge that we'd built 20 years earlier, and just try to absorb the impact of the loss. And it was pretty unbelievable. But you know what? It still felt like holy ground. It still felt like it had a purpose. There was tremendous loss in the structure and everything that was in it, but the memories were still there and just as real as they were before. And the presence of God felt just as real as it was before. And so it really renewed my faith. But at the same time, it stirred something deep inside of me because it was a traumatic event. Something dislodged inside of me where I had yet another memory from childhood that just had to bubble up and be dealt with. So, you know, here I am dealing with the loss and grieving, you know, not having the lodge anymore, but then at the same time had this opportunity to really get rid of something in my life. I had been molested from a relative one time as a child, small child, and had never told anybody, not even Bob. So we went back to this place that we'd gone to in Tennessee called Onsite. And this just loving couple who'd been to the lodge and knew our loss counseled us through that. And it was it was like, it was a tragedy on top of tragedy. But I look back now and I feel so grateful that God is always with us, and empathy, like toward other people. Loss is loss, and you could grieve the loss of an idea or a dream, parent, a child, whatever it is. Like it's still real, and it still cuts you deep. But God is in the midst of all of that, and that belief was renewed in me from this tragedy that we just went through. So we're going to rebuild because we love having the people from camp come over that are serving, and we get to serve them. And then over the years that we had started to invite other people who are out on the front lines, out in culture, sharing their faith, whether they're musicians or artists or authors or movie producers or running large companies. And, you know, you get beat up pretty easily out in the world. And so we wanted to provide a place where they could come back and get recentered and renew their faith and find the rest that they needed. That's what Jesus did with his disciples. They were coming and going and doing all these wonderful things. And he said to them, kind of like, time out. We need to go away to a secluded place and rest. And so that's what the lodge became for a lot of people. And I think it'll continue to be that as time goes on and we keep building.
Well, that's awesome. I love hearing that story. I'd never heard the story before about how you guys acquired the land and all of that. And we could talk for a whole nother hour about grieving and grieving things. And so I think it's an important conversation. And I know a lot of times I think we don't want to grieve because we don't want to hurt. And so then we hold it in, and then oftentimes it will come out, you know, and I'm so grateful that you had the wisdom to deal with something that had happened decades before, and you could have thought, oh, well, just not deal with it. But you knew that you had to.
I did. Yep. And the thing that, too, with all of the stuff in my life, and it came out in my writing, that I realized there were some things that I needed to tell my kids before it was published in a book, you know?
Yes.
You know, and I'd always kind of prayed that God would show me as I was raising them, you know, how do I use some of my past experiences? And there never seemed to be the right time. And I always trusted that they didn't need to know the gory details of my childhood while they were growing up in theirs. Like they were very different childhoods. So, you know, it was really beautiful, Jamie, to be able to sit down with each of them privately and explain to them that through tears, there's tears, lots of them, and to say, you know, there's some things that I'm writing about and I want to share with people, but not until I've shared them with you. And if you don't want me to put this in the book, I won't. And all of them were just so loving and understanding and cried with me. And, you know, we hugged, and they're like, it was almost like they were like, this is no big deal, Mom. Like, this is way harder on you than it is on us. Like, we kind of care. You know, we're sorry you went through those things, but that doesn't affect our relationship in any way other than we just love you more. So that's, I think, a good reminder for people to know, too, that even when you don't know what to do with the pain that you're in, or you don't want to look at it because you don't know what to do with it, that chances are there's people around you that are going to love you no matter what. And just find who they are. Maybe you have to pay a counselor first, but chances are the ones that are with you, the closest ones to you, will love you the most through it.
It's so true. It's so true. What good advice for people. Okay, Maria, I must ask you, what 3 things are you loving these days?
Oh my gosh. So I don't know. Did I mention we have a new puppy?
Yes. Well, what kind? I was going to ask you, what kind of puppy do you have?
It's a mini golden doodle. So he won't be more than maybe, I don't know, 9 or 10 pounds. I keep saying he because our first dog was a he. I'm having the hardest time calling.
You're going to give her an identity crisis is what you're going to give her.
Seriously. Her name is Abby, and she's not going to be more than about 9 or 10 pounds. And so everything is puppy right now. And our whole life has been turned upside down. We're loving it. So all of a sudden I'm thinking there's going to be puppy toys back in the house.
Yes.
And honestly, I don't love a lot of the look of puppy toys. But PetSmart has Ellen DeGeneres, a new line for puppy toys. And
are they cool looking? Like they
So
don't look like puppy toys?
so cool. Like you want to have them out laying around in your house because they're just like cool and stylish and good colors and well made and all. So I'm super excited about the fact that there are really good puppy toys out there. So that's one thing that I'm really into right now. The other thing, because I'm in this limbo time, it's given me space to do some things that I haven't been able to do. Well, once I'm not writing, now what? And so I'm starting to live my pins. That's what I'm calling it. Like I'm going back on my pin board that I started, I don't know, a bazillion years ago. And I'm looking up things that I pinned with new eyes and thinking, let's actually cook this meal. Let's actually do this project. Let's actually clean out that closet according to the pin. Because I found that I was just pinning things for the sake of pinning them, but not actually living them.
It's like this dream world. And now you're saying, I'm going to make it a reality.
Yeah. So that's what I'm started to do.
That's a good idea. We should do something where every month you make one of your pins a reality.
Yeah. You need to start living them. Otherwise, remember when we used to just rip things out of magazines?
Yes. I had binders full of stuff in magazines.
Yeah.
I mean, that I would rip out and put in different categories.
Yeah. And those things that was smart of you to be so organized. I would just have stacks of paper in my cabinets, so it would remind me to go do them.
Okay, so you're going to start living out your pins. What else are you loving? I'm
loving the fact that I can get back out in the garden and start cleaning up after the winter. San Diego right now, it really feels like they're starting to bloom. And I just picked up some mint the other day that I can't wait to plant. And so I'm loving that. Those are my 3 things, my current status of stuff I love.
Okay, so you're loving your new puppy, which is so adorable, and the PetSmart toys, which I'm going to have to go check out because I'm kind of like you. We have a dog that just turned 1, and I told Aaron the other day, I was like, we used to pick up toddler toys every night, and now we pick up dog toys. So we have a new world too.
Yes.
You're going to start pinning and then getting in your garden, which I love all of these things. Maria, what are you reading these days?
Yeah. Okay. So, did I mention I have a puppy?
Yes.
Sorry. There's a book called, it was recommended to us. It's called The Puppy Primer by Patricia McConnell. And I'm getting that out because I'm like, I don't know how to potty train. I don't know what schedule. I don't know any of this stuff. It's relearning all of these things again. So I'm loving that book. And then also The Road Back to You by Ian Crone, on Enneagrams. This last Christmas, everybody got a copy of it, and it comes, the study guide came out. And so I have the study guide now that I'm going through because the kids suggested that this summer when we're all together up in Canada, we'll go through the study guide because we're all different numbers. Some of us are the same, but we're kind of the Enneagram thing has been a fun tool. It's not the end all to understanding each other, but it's been a fun tool to start conversations about how we might be wired differently and that we don't need to take our differences personally. If somebody doesn't feel the same way or act the same way as you do, but to just appreciate, that's how you're wired. This is your personality. And there's a healthy side to your personality and an unhealthy side to your personality. So we get to dive into that a little bit more this summer. And so I'm looking forward to doing the study guide with them.
That is so fun.
Yeah, that's a really good book. And then I know a lot of people are cleaning out their houses with its springtime and stuff. And I needed to do the same thing because I don't know about you, but writing the book, man, my life felt like it stopped. Like
Yes.
I wasn't cooking, I wasn't taking care of anything. So I had some closets that were just kind of like opening themselves up on their own and spilling out into the room. And I thought, okay, I need to start organizing. And sometimes it's just set the timer for 15 minutes and go. But the second book called Spark Joy from Marie Kondo, are you familiar with her?
I'm not.
Yeah. So she's got this really great organizing tip for going through your house and how to get rid of stuff and, thinking, looking at items and going, does this really spark joy?
Oh, yes. I've heard of this.
Have this in my life, or can I pass it on to somebody else now? And so I don't want to keep things hostage anymore in my home. I want to release them out in the world and let other people enjoy them. But I have to stay motivated to do it. And reading books about organizing is the best way for me to stay focused. And so she had a second book called Spark Joy. So I'm starting to read that.
Okay, well, that sounds lovely. I need some things to help me organize around the house as well. I'm the same. I feel like life just stopped when I was writing.
Yeah.
Maria, it has been such a joy to chat with you. And I am so excited for just what's ahead of you, what's next. And I know that this book is going to be a really great read for a lot of people. So I'll put the link in the show notes as always for Love Lives Here. Congratulations on putting that out. And I hope you guys have a great summer.
Thank you, Jamie. We sure love you. Thanks for the good work you're doing.
Thanks, Maria. Guys, I love chatting with Maria. It was such a joy to spend an hour with her, and I know that you loved it as well. I want to thank one of today's sponsors, and that is Get V. What if you had someone tell you how to work out all the time? V, an AI personal trainer in earphones, has your workout motivation covered. V coaches you to goals, encouraging you every step of the way. Find V at getv.com/happy. That's GETVI.com/happy. All right, guys, drum roll, please. Our next book club read is called A Fierce Love by Shauna Shanks. This book is so different than the first book that we chose in June. And guess what? No surprise, August's book club choice is even more different than this one. I really wanted to pick 3 different books for us to read together this summer. I'm excited about this book. Shauna was a month shy of celebrating her 10-year anniversary when her marriage came crashing down. In her book, she shares her deeply personal account of rebuilding her marriage. She shares her journey that was full of tears and emotional exhaustion, but also it was a time filled with God pursuing her. So excited to read this book along with you guys, and excited for our book club at the end of July, where she is flying in from Ohio to join us. Yes, Ohio. What is Ohio known for? Like, what can she bring me? I don't even know. If you want to sign up, go to jamieivey.com/book club and you can do it there. It gets you signed up, it gets you on the email list, and it gets you a link to where you can buy the book and have it delivered to your house the day it comes out. All right, guys, if you missed last week, please go back and listen to my conversation with Sarah Harmeyer from Neighbor's Table. You will not only love our conversation, you're going to be inspired to have a dinner party. It's what you're going to do, and you're going to know that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be from you. Next week, my friend Sophie Hudson joins me on the Happy Hour. We just spent a week together in Kenya with our boys, one of my boys and her son, Alex. We have so much to share with you. We're going to have laughs from the trips, plus how you can get involved with Compassion International, which is who we traveled with and whom we both have a deep affection for. Guys, enjoy your week. Share the show with a girlfriend and have a happy hour with a friend. I will see you next week with Sophie Hudson.